Hello everybody. The purpose of this video is to describe the several issues that I had with this Craftsman backpack leaf blower and how I ended up resolving them and modifying everything so that it works. So what I'm going to explain is how I cleaned the carburetor first, how I adjusted or actually modified the carburetor adjustment screw so that one could easily adjust it without a special tool, and I will also describe what I did to replace the spark plug cable. So what I'm going to do now is quickly take the carburetor apart and show you where I think there's a few flaws. So you get the air filter off, unscrew those two, take the filter out. You're going to meet two screws that hold the carburetor on, so you're going to take those off. Alright, so we'll get those screws out. We got a silver plate we got to remember to stick back on. So now the filter's off. Now we have the carburetor. Quick view of that. This was overall very clean when I took it apart initially, but it did have gasoline over it in the winter time, which sat in the engine, so I think that's what attributed to the problems with it. The throttle cable out. So we'll see how this carburetor comes apart now. I'm going to take out the last of the bottom screws that holds it together. So all four are off. It's starting to leak gasoline. We'll pull off the bulb. So now we have another plate that comes off. Put that aside. Got a flap with the valve. It's the diaphragm, I guess. Put that aside. Then we got the bottom. This whole area was pretty clean, so nothing really was limiting gas in this area, although I did clean it out with carburetor cleaner, so that was okay. And then I made sure that this hole, which allows the gas to get mixed with the air, made sure that was clean, and that was clean too. We'll pull off our two gaskets, I guess. That one's a piece of plastic. This one's more of a rubber. That goes next. And then I had mostly an issue with I guess it's the gas injector needle, which is in the center here. And I'll point it out before I take it apart, but it's that white plastic piece which has the metal rod that extends into it. So I'm taking off the last piece of the carburetor where the throttle attaches to it. So I'm taking off this top plate. I took these two screws out, so that's free. And now I just pulled out the piece that manipulates the air intake and the gas and all that stuff. So anyhow, the pin inside of there meets up with that white plastic part, which is inside of here. Now my problem was that there's a small slit on the side of the white piece that comes up, and that had gotten clogged with debris, and that's where your gasoline comes out and mixes with the air. So all I did was take a tool, found where that crease was, stuck this in, made sure it was patent, and widened it a little bit, and I believe that resolved the issue. Now I wish it was more of maybe a brass pin, but either way I widened that little channel, and that gave it enough gas. And that resolved one of the issues I had of it sputtering out at full throttle. It wanted to bog down and die. Now, I really hate buying special tools to do special jobs, especially when they're, I don't know, at least 20 bucks, and I'm not going to use them that often. So what I did was, to be able to adjust this carburetor screw, which is the only carburetor screw I could find on this one, is I just took a Dremel to it, used a diamond blade, and I cut a nice flathead notch into the carburetor screw. And now I can adjust it without any special tools, as opposed to needing that special long narrow one, and this makes adjustment a lot easier. One other problem I had with this blower was with the spark plug cable. You can see that it's got an outer protective rubber coating, and on the inside there's an extremely thin silver wire that looks like it's wrapped around something like a shoelace. What I noticed was where it connects at the spark plug, there was a copper wire going over top the spark plug, and then two prongs from that which would pierce the side of this and make contact with that very small wire. So when I did a spark plug check, I was no longer getting a connection because the whole entire head and everything came apart when I simply tried to remove the cable from the spark plug, and it no longer was going to work. So what I had to do was actually replace the entire spark plug cable, and I'll show you what I ended up doing. So I'm sorry I didn't get a picture of the internals of what I did, but I will show you what I ended up with. I ran a I think it's 14 gauge copper wire directly to the area where a charge is created off of this turning motor. So here's the wire that connects to the spark plug and provides the energy for the spark. What I did is I slowly ate away at this device here and eventually found a screw in this area. And I didn't have to tamper with the screw, but what I did do is take out the old wire from around the screw and I rewrapped this copper wire around that screw, and then afterwards filled it in with liquid electrical tape. So now I have a brand new wire with very little resistance running up to the spark plug. And then at the spark plug, all I simply did was strip the end of the wire and wrap it as tightly as I could around the end of the spark plug. Did a spark plug test and it worked perfectly. So I just reassembled it after all the modifications I made to it, and I just adjusted the carburetor screw while I had it running so that it's at its peak performance, and I guess the mixture is right. So I'm going to start it up, run it, just to show that it works after all these modifications I made to it. And adjusting the carburetor was easy because it was a flathead screwdriver. So I got it running.